The mockery. June 5th, 1944. Northern France. June 5th, 1944. Somewhere near Saint-Lô, France. The drizzle settles softly on the camouflage netting stretched over a row of Panzer fours. In the distance, the muffled thump of artillery echoes faintly across the Norman countryside. But for now, the men of the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend are calm. Unteroffizier Hans Becker, a 23-year-old tank gunner, leans against the side of his vehicle, a half-smoked cigarette dangling from his lips. He chuckles as he flips through a captured issue of Yank magazine, its pages showing American GIs posing beside their tanks. Squat, clumsy-looking M4 Shermans. "Look at these toys," Becker sneers. "They call that a tank? A kettle with a gun." His commander, Oberfeldwebel Franz Kruger, joins in. "A Ronson," they say, "lights up every time. One shell from a Tiger, and poof!" He mimes an explosion with his hands. The men laugh, confident, proud of their 75mm long-barreled gun and thick frontal armor. They had faced the Sherman before, in Italy, in Tunisia. Always the same result. German steel triumphant. Becker flicks his cigarette into the mud and grins. "If the Americans ever land here, we'll send their Shermans home in pieces." But overhead, unseen in the night sky, hundreds of Allied aircraft thunder east. And far out to sea, beyond the horizon, a massive armada is gathering. Within 24 hours, Becker's laughter will vanish, replaced by the roar of engines, the scream of shells, and the grinding steel of war. The invasion begins. June 6th, 1944. Normandy coast dawn breaks over the French coastline like a curtain of fire. From the cliffs above Omaha Beach, German sentries of the 302nd Infantry Division stare in disbelief at the horizon. A horizon that no longer exists. It's gone, swallowed by the black silhouettes of ships. Hundreds of them, thousands maybe. Then the sky itself begins to roar. Bombers drone overhead, shaking the bunkers. The ground trembles under the pounding of naval guns. A sergeant yells for cover. Too late. A shell crashes into the casemate above, showering him in dust and steel fragments. Inland, Becker's panzer crew scrambles to life. Orders crackle through the radio. "Fein Landung bei Caen. All units mobilize immediately." "Enemy landing near Caen. All units to counterattack." The Panzers lurch forward, their Maybach engines growling through hedgerows and narrow farm lanes. The stench of fuel and damp earth fills the air. Becker loads armor-piercing shells into the breach, his hands trembling slightly despite his training. By afternoon, reports flood in. Allied armor is advancing inland. But something's different this time. The American columns aren't thin, hesitant, or disorganized. They're endless. From horizon to horizon, convoys of tanks, Shermans, are pushing through the countryside, escorted by low-flying thunderbolts and typhoons, strafing every road and hedgerow. Kruger peers through his binoculars at the approaching dust cloud. "Those can't all be Shermans," he mutters. "There can't be that many." Becker loads another shell and mutters under his breath. Then where the hell are they getting them? The answer, though he doesn't know it, lies across the ocean, in Detroit, in Pittsburgh, in sprawling American factories that have already built over 50,000 of the very tanks they'd once mocked. The Bocage Trap. June 10th, 1944, near Saint-Lô. The countryside of Normandy looks peaceful from above. Rolling green fields, hedgerows stitched together like patchwork. But for the men on the ground, it's a nightmare. Each field is a fortress. Every hedgerow a wall of earth 6 feet high, topped with roots and brambles that stop bullets, shells, and even tanks. Becker's Panzer crew creeps through the maze of bocage lanes, the tank's treads chewing into wet soil. Inside the cramped metal shell, the air smells of oil and sweat. Flies buzz around spent shell casings. Slow, Kruger whispers from the commander's cupola. They're here somewhere. A crack, the sharp hiss of ricochet. A 75mm round slams into a nearby Panzer IV, tearing through its side. Flames erupt instantly, and in seconds, the crew inside is gone. Becker's eyes widen. "Shermans!" the loader screams. "To the right, by the orchard." Becker swings the turret, sighting a tan blur between the trees. He squeezes the trigger. The gun recoils with a thunderous crack, and a plume of smoke rises where the American tank once stood. "Hit!" Kruger shouts. But before they can reposition, the air splits with the shriek of rockets. Allied fighter bombers, P-47 Thunderbolts, dive from the clouds. The first rocket misses. The second doesn't. A column of fire engulfs the field. Becker's tank lurches sideways, ears ringing, as shrapnel rips across the hull. Through the periscope, he sees Shermans advancing behind the smoke, dozens of them. The Germans fight back fiercely, but for every Panzer destroyed, 5 more Shermans seem to appear. The enemy moves with terrifying coordination. Armor supported by infantry, artillery, and aircraft, all in perfect rhythm. By nightfall, Becker's unit is down to 2 tanks. The radio crackles with static and panic. Somewhere in the distance, he hears an American voice through a loudspeaker. "Surrender, Germans. You are surrounded." Kruger lowers his binoculars, sweat running down his face despite the cold. This isn't like Russia," he mutters. "They don't stop. They just keep coming." The turning tide. Late June 1944, outside Caen. The roads around Caen are clogged with wrecks. Burned-out Panzers sit half-sunk in ditches, their turrets blown clean off. The smell of fuel and scorched rubber hangs over the countryside like fog. Becker's surviving tank crawls through the smoke at dawn. Every field seems to hide a new column of Shermans. M4A1s, M4A3s, Fireflies. Their engines hum like a swarm of bees, their silhouettes appearing over the ridgelines in waves. 6 Uhr, 6 o'clock, the loader yells. A Sherman rounds the corner, gun leveled. Becker fires first. The shell ricochets, too steep an angle. The American returns fire. The world erupts in white light. When Becker's vision clears, their Panzer is crippled. Smoke fills the turret. Kruger's voice is hoarse, shouting orders to bail out. The crew tumbles into the mud, coughing, disoriented. They crawl behind a hedgerow and watch the impossible unfold. The Shermans aren't retreating. They're advancing methodically, row after row, each covering the other. Infantry moves in, step behind them, machine guns sweeping the hedgerows. Above, Allied jabos circle like hawks. From the ruins of a farmhouse, a wounded German lieutenant mutters, "Where are our Tigers? Where's air support?" Becker doesn't answer. He knows the truth. The Luftwaffe is gone, and most of the Tiger tanks are trapped behind the Seine. At that moment, the myth of German invincibility dies quietly in the fields of Normandy. Back in Berlin, Goebbels' propaganda still calls the Sherman inferior. But on the ground, the men who face it know better. The tank that once made them laugh now grinds them into retreat. Not because it's stronger, but because there are too many of them, and they never stop coming. As the Allies push toward Caen, a British Cromwell rolls past Becker's abandoned position, followed by a Sherman Firefly with its long 17-pounder gun. The British crews nod at their American counterparts. An unspoken understanding between nations united by production and persistence. That night, under the dim orange glow of distant fires, Becker writes in his notebook, "They have more tanks than we have bullets, buried under steel." July-August 1944, the Falaise Pocket. By July, the German front in Normandy is collapsing. Allied forces are everywhere, pressing from Caen in the east, Saint-Lô in the west, and from the air above. The panzer divisions that once laughed at the M4 Sherman are now being hunted, encircled, and annihilated. Unteroffizier Hans Becker hasn't seen a tiger in weeks. His division, what's left of it, is a ghost. Fragments of the once feared 12th SS Panzer scattered through the hedgerows, trying to hold back a flood. On the morning of August 8th, the thunder starts again, not artillery, but engines. Thousands of them. Across the open plains near Falaise, an ocean of olive-drab armor rolls forward. Shermans, Cromwells, M10 tank destroyers, and self-propelled guns stretching as far as the eye can see. The ground shakes under their advance. Becker crouches in a shallow foxhole, clutching his rifle now, his tank long gone. Overhead, Allied Typhoons scream low, unleashing rockets on every German vehicle that dares to move. "Got him, Himmel," he whispers, watching as another Panzer tries to escape down the road and explodes under a hail of rockets. The Germans are trapped, over 100,000 men in the Falaise Pocket, crushed by a ring of steel and fire. For days they fight desperately to break out. Smoke turns day into night. The air reeks of cordite and death. By August 21st, it's over. The once proud Panzer divisions are gone, their machines burned out in ditches, their crews walking east in silence. The Shermans, those Ronsons the Germans mocked, now dominate the fields they once feared to enter. Becker is among the few who make it out alive, retreating on foot through the wreckage. As he passes a burned-out Tiger, its turret blown apart, he stops. The insignia of the once invincible Panzerwaffe is charred and fading. He looks back one last time at the endless columns of Allied armor crawling westward toward Paris. They laughed at the Sherman, he mutters bitterly. But the Sherman didn't need to be perfect. It only needed to be everywhere. The laughter that began in June has died in the mud of Normandy. The myth of German technical superiority shattered under the treads of American industry. From Detroit to Dover, factories that never saw a battle forged the real weapon of victory. Numbers, speed, and unbreakable will. As Becker disappears into the retreating columns, the last light of day glints off a single Sherman passing through the ruins, its name stenciled on the hull in white paint. Victory bell. The tank rumbles on toward the Seine, toward Paris, toward the end of the war.